Do you know what your higher self is? Your higher self is you, your subconscious. Do you know that fear is a continuum that is a neurological experience? At the pinnacle of fear, you have psychopathy. You have trampling people unknowingly. Fear has a neurological implication because it cuts you off from reality. Fear invokes tunnel vision, and that fear has a neurological proportionality that your social fears, that you need to be good enough, your fear of abandonment, rejection, and failure, is the barrier between you and your higher self. That enlightenment is nothing but a neurological phenomenon that occurs when all fear turns off and the remaining cognitive impairments liberate the human mind for the first time. And the total sum of cognitive and creative power within the human mind is revealed to the individual. You see, you understand what dissociating into fear is like because you've been paralyzed before. You've had fear that has caused you to shut down neurologically. But you see, psychology does not know that. They do not know that dissociating is not a psychological maneuver, but a neurological process associated with the tunnel vision of fight or flight. Except the human being has enveloped themselves as the threat. And so all human beings are living in a persistent anxiety that they've always had since early childhood that has gone unnoticed and undistinguished because it seems to be related to reality. And so you consider everything around you a threat, so you try to fix it, overcome it, change it, improve yourself, learn and grow. These neurological loops are positive feedback, meaning the experiences that you have, like being not enough, continue to repeat themselves because the experience that is created confirms the experience itself, triggering more of the same. That you feel not good enough, and it creates a loop that keeps you as the embodiment of somebody that is fundamentally insecure and needing to compensate with money, with material, with social validation. And the more of this fear you have, the more pathological you are because it contaminates reality. And the intellectual divide between the enlightened and everybody else is so significant. Yet it's undetected because your preoccupations are on the things that you think you need to fix and change because it's real for you. And everybody could look at the pathology of some people like narcissists, but that's all the narcissist is. The narcissist is a significant fear state that creates a permanent sense of emergency that requires hypercompensation, that improperly contextualizes everything in reality, that creates such a profound fear of abandonment they become controlling. They become hyper-fixated upon the thoughts and feelings of others because that fear causes them to fear everyone else. And they're so reactive because they're always in fight or flight, always in fight or flight. Why do you think these men have toxic masculinity? Why do you think they're trying to be hyper-masculine and be as alpha as possible? Because they're terrified. Because they feel like a victim all the time, because that's what fear does. Fear subordinates you. They are in flight mode, trying to compensate all the way to the point where they think women are too masculine for them. Too masculine. So this guy that's all pumped up on juice, all these tats, all that extra facial hair, is threatened by somebody looking at his girlfriend and feels disrespected because it conjures a sense of fear and inferiority that is associated with the feeling of being not good enough, which is the flight reaction. And so that fear motivates them to be into attack mode. Like an animal backed up into a corner, this person becomes a social animal backed into a corner where they blame their own inferiority on everyone else. They are a pervasive victim. And this is why they cheat. This is why they feel entitled to, because they hold the woman accountable, because in this paradigm, the woman needs to be the comforting mother, needs to be the source of pleasure, while also being the greatest threat because of the abandonment. And they need to reduce your value, to reduce the risk of you leaving. You need to have no money, you need to have less development. Oh, and they're so insecure and so afraid that even imagining you thinking about past relationships conjures inferiority fear. And that's why they need you to have less experience so that you have less basis of comparison. And then their own toxic behaviors undermine every relationship they have by default. And so while they act that way, then they go and seek more attention, more validation, and more pleasure seeking from other women. And they think that that's biological. And it's not biological. It is just bullshit. Because they cannot get away from this, because this fear is always on. And so fear is not an emotion as much as it is a neurological experience that absolutely segregates the consciousness and forms the subconscious, that there is no permanent subconscious. The subconscious is a neurologically maintained space of consciousness and awareness that is cut off from the awareness of the person because they are tunnel visioned around their perceived problems. And all the perceived problems that you have are completely inauthentic, repetitive paradigms in early childhood that is yet to be discovered in psychology, that has been discovered in the world of enlightenment, but just not explained on a neurological level. And so enlightenment is the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system in meditation is how we first achieved it, releasing the consciousness from the subconscious, letting it unify in the moment for the first time, where the mind is set free the same way it is in dreaming, and the total sum of one's true intellectual ability is revealed in an instantaneous reconciliation with the subconscious and the momentary experience that invokes a sense of an expanding universe within the mind, a connection to a form of consciousness that is unadulterated by fear. And this is what the Jesus has found, this is what the Buddha found, this is what I found, this is what the Alan Watts found, and this is what everybody's telling humanity is a necessary step in order for the salvation to happen. That understanding the neurological basis, the connection to the formation of human language, the genesis of the proverbial me, and the Adam and Eve moment in which all children have a fight or flight reaction that creates an artificial abandonment, that they spend the rest of their life in a neurological loop trying to overcome it in a Twilight Zone rerun called Am I Good Enough Yet? Are we there yet? And so since you cannot overcome this, you continue to create fantasy futures where you're fixed, you're healed, and there's nothing to fix, change, or heal from except for fear itself. And if you want to learn how to wake up, if you want to really wake up, if you want to see what your higher self is, if you want to discover yourself, I'm your Huckleberry. Yeah, I've had this experience, and it's produced a level of awareness that is supernatural. And I can guide anybody to that experience because I put in the work to discover exactly how it works. And that's just the facts. And humanity's either going to get this or it's a very predictable conclusion that these predictions, these Nostradamus people, these biblical, it has nothing to do with some supernatural thing. Consciousness is supernatural to ego. It's supernatural, yeah. But it's very easy to see. Like if you look at the writing on the wall in humanity, you don't need to be Clio Psychic Network. Like people are just ignoring it. We are playing the violin while the Titanic is sinking, and ego is fully responsible for this. That if you want to see the world get destroyed, you just keep being you, boo-boo. You keep pretending that it's all going to work out. You keep putting narcissists in office, giving them launch codes, letting them fleece the government. You keep chasing your little minuscule dreams of finally avoiding an abandonment, finally getting your shit together, and you will never discover yourself. You will never wake up doing what you're doing. It's time.